Welcome everybody. Happy Monday. We are back and it is almost officially holiday season. I think it still is because Gwen's Christmas tree is still there, so we still know where we are. We're all getting excited, I think, for a little bit of downtime, and we thought this week would be a really good week to talk about just some like real life stuff. It's the holiday season, and sometimes that means more relaxing. Sometimes that means more stress for people. Sometimes that means there's more food around. Sometimes that means there's less exercise opportunities. So we wanted to kind of just, have the theme of like what to do with when real life happens, because real life is happening all the time. And it sometimes seems during these times that it just gets a little bit more magnified. So let's jump into that. Gwen, you and I were just kind of talking off air a little bit about, how we help our clients during this time. And maybe one of the things that you and I talked about when you were my client previously that stuck out to you. And if we want to start there, we can have a conversation.
Yeah, sounds good. Well, I mean, just in the spirit of real life, I mean, the topic was going to be real life, real bodies, but just real life is the fact that Sheena and I, this is the, I think, third time we've used this platform to record, and we're having issues with Wi-Fi, with lighting, with connection. She couldn't hear me. And I think a lot of times we don't want to show that side of ourselves. And I also wanted to blur my background, and we were just like, screw it. We're here, we're talking, this is real life. And I think it's just a good reminder that, especially with social media and all of the filters that are out there, um, and AI, we don't really know what's real anymore. And so our goal, and I think Sheena and I kind of pride ourselves on this, is we like to show up and show all sides of what's going on in our lives. And that's the way we like to coach our clients, because we don't want you to just be able to do something for 4 or 6 weeks. We want your changed habits to be able to sustain you for life and to be realistic, and not something that you just can't wait for it to be over, whatever we're asking you to do. And Sheena shared something with me that she shared with some of her clients that I just thought was an amazing analogy, and I'll botch it, so I'm going to ask her to do it. But it's just, a lot of people say things like, "Oh, I got off track," or um, "I I cheated over the weekend," or "I have to restart on Monday," or "I'll wait until January." And these
I
are
fell off the
common things.
wagon. That's my favorite.
I fell off the wagon. There you go. So, Sheena, let's hear. What do you say to your clients? What's one of the things that you've said that helps them understand the reality of those things are all BS?
They are all BS. The first thing I tell them is there is no freaking wagon. If you're on a wagon, that means that you're on a like a plan or a protocol, and it's probably for a defined amount of time, right? Like, where's your next stop? That's what you're thinking about. That's what I think about, is like, if you're on this track, the track's got to stop eventually, right? So let's get off the wagon, and instead of thinking about, you're on one track, let's expand that. Like, if you fall off of one track, guess what? There's another one right beside you. Let's get on that one and let's keep moving, right? It could be, instead of a single leg track, like, let's think about it as 4 lanes. Give yourself a wider berth, so that if you happen to swerve a little bit off track, you're still on the path. You're still on the right way. You're still going the right direction, but you're not completely jumping off and abandoning ship, right? This is too many transportation methods, but I think it's just such an easier way of just, what's the word I'm looking for here? Like, setting your expectations a little bit more appropriately. We don't want to walk a tightrope for the rest of our life. If one slip and one slice of pizza sends you into thinking that you're cheating on your diet and that you have to get back on plan again, that's not the way you should live your life. That's not the way we want you to live your life. We want you to understand that there is so much more to it. And the greater accomplishment in that, the greater success, it comes like when you do go off, you're just able to get right back on, right? So maybe you're not on the tightrope, and maybe you're on lane 6, but you're still on a lane that's going in the right direction, and that's the lane that we want to keep you in. So I think it's a little bit of like expectation management, and maybe just a little bit of, it's a lot of it of helping people just reframe how they're thinking about food and nutrition and exercise, and how it's supposed to fit for the rest of their life, not just getting to tomorrow, right? So that's
Yeah,
kind of
well
simplified.
said. No, it's great. I think, like, just as you were talking, it made me feel a sense of relief just being reminded. And Like, I need the reminder too. I think that's something that I think people, have a hard time understanding, like thinking that, oh, maybe we're perfect or we don't have to remind ourselves to get on a different track or just to keep moving forward. And, it's our responsibility to live the same way we're expecting our clients to live their lives. And I think that's really important. As you were talking, Sheena, I also thought about, GPS, right? When you have a route that's planned out to get from point A to point B, and if something comes up on that route, there's an accident or a bridge is out or something like that, you don't just stop your car and not keep moving. The GPS reroutes you a different way so you can still get to your destination. So, that's just another analogy that I thought of.
Yeah.
And, I
It's a
think
different
during the
form of
holidays.
permission, right? Like, we always talk about permission. It's like, yeah, Siri is giving you another form of permission, like, "Oh, we don't have to go this way. Let's go this way. Maybe it takes a little longer, but it's safer. We're not gonna we're not going out
Yeah,
over the bridge that's out of order. Like, let's maybe just let's think about this for a second." And
exactly.
exactly,
Safer,
like,
maybe a little. Yeah, you're not sitting still. You're actually moving. You're not at a standstill. I mean, there are so many different analogies.
yeah.
Yeah, safer. That's a good one.
Yeah, but again, like, it's like you don't need sometimes people just they think that we're giving them permission, but we're also like, we're trying to open your eyes to be like, "What if I gave myself permission to do this?" Right? Like, instead of like,
Mhm.
I'm okay with me taking it a little bit slower, going a different route. I'm not going completely away from plan, but, like, my expectations can be widened a little bit. I can give myself the grace to just know that this is a hard time that I'm going through, and I can just keep putting one foot in front of the other, just on a different path, and that's okay,
Yeah.
right?
Fantastic. Yeah, that reminds me of one client who really worked a lot on reframing. And one of the things that let's call it a mantra or just a self talk thing that she used was, I wonder what would happen if. And that was her way of giving herself permission. Like, I wonder what would happen if I didn't work out 4 days a week and I only worked out 3 days a week instead. Or I wonder what would happen if I brought my lunch instead of relying on somebody else to feed me at my workplace. And I think it opens up possibilities when we give ourselves permission. We accept that real life challenges and obstacles doesn't mean we have to stop our progress. And it just gives us the opportunity to really start believing in ourselves, right? And learn that we do have the ability to make different choices. And that's building confidence that you can find a way, you can solve the problem, and you can do something different. So,
So
yeah.
empowering. It's so empowering when you can, yeah, really, like, harness that. I love that. That's good. Are there any,
Yeah.
situations in your life where you feel like you've been able to do that? Anything that comes to mind?
Yeah. I mean, just since we're talking about, in the holidays, I know like people talk about joy and happiness and everybody's giving gifts and getting together. And I think some of the things we don't talk about a lot are that holidays can be filled with grief and it can be stressful. We're out of our routines and, our regular habits. We might be traveling more. And I'll just tell you like something that comes up for me. I lost my brother at the age of 55 a couple of years ago, and it was in August. And so obviously, you know, immediately after, or even while I'm there and, planning his memorial service, right? My workout routine, my food routine is going to look very different.
Mhm,
And the last thing I needed to do when my brother passed away was to beat myself up because I couldn't go to the gym as I normally do or eat the way I normally do. So, how I reframed it, first of all, I found a CrossFit gym in Pennsylvania and I didn't go every day, but I went one day because that to me was healing. And just being around people and kind of working through the stress and the grief was a way that I chose to deal with what was happening. And, somebody even said to me, and it just came out of my mouth, they were like, "Oh, are you, where are you from? Because this is a really common thing where you can pop into other CrossFit gyms. And I was like, oh, well, I live in California and I'm just visiting. And they were like, oh, what are you visiting for? I was like, it just came out. I was like, well, my brother passed away. And I couldn't think of a better place to be than around other people. And I truly felt that by sweating it out, because exercise is also for mental health, it was going to help me get through a difficult time. Now, I didn't do CrossFit 4 or 5 days that week. I think I did one day, and then I went on some long walks in a park that my brother used to walk his dog. And that was the best I could do. And I've done that before where I've beat myself up and said, why didn't you work out more? Or you're going to lose all your gains, or no excuses, or, it just kind of reminds me of 75 hard. And like, there's no excuse or reason that is a good reason. And I think that's what I love helping my clients work through things like that as well. And, I just reminded myself that I will get back to what I know grounds me and my regular habits, because I know how good I feel when I do those things. One of my clients, she lives in Chicago. Her husband just unexpectedly was hospitalized a couple weekends ago, and she's very consistent with her nutrition, tracking her food. We actually were working on increasing her calories because she was under eating, to support her 4 day a week exercise regimen. She's strength
Mhm.
training 4 times a week. And, she kind of, our first session after her husband came out of the hospital, was discharged, she was sheepishly saying, well, I didn't track my food and I didn't eat a lot because I couldn't eat. Well, guess what? Like, the last thing she should be doing
Mhm.
is tracking her food. Or she was stressed, so the way she responds to stress is she doesn't eat. And people are on both sides of the spectrum. Some people emotionally eat more, they eat differently. Some people don't eat at all. And it was more about, how can she get back to, once her husband was stabilized, how can she get back to taking care of herself? And it was so beautiful to see her, like, within a week, get back to sleeping better, tracking her food, getting back at the gym. And I just reframed it and talked to her about looking at it as a deload week, because she, like, taking a physical rest sometimes can help you come back even stronger. And when you give your body what it needs, like whether it's a mental break or a physical break, it's knowing that it's okay to do that and when to do it. And that's what helps you come back even stronger in all ways. So I think that's important.
Awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, I think people get scared too of like when they get out of their routine for whatever reason, whether it's like, yeah, your husband's in the hospital or you got sick or you're traveling or whatever. I think people think that if they can't keep up the streak or of like the consecutive days of working out, that somehow, again, if you're on that one track and if you fall off, that you're not going to be able to get back on, right? And it's like, no, you're just on a different path. Like, so you worked out twice this week instead of 4 times. Like that's where that path is taking you. And guess what? The destination is still the same. It's just a different route. Be kind to yourself. Like, just keep moving forward, right? Yeah, it's just I get where people are crying. Like I feel that way too. It's like it can be scary. Like it can be scary to think like, what if I don't continue these habits that I've worked so hard to get in place,
Mhm.
right? And like that old, what is that analogy of like the journey is the destination? Like we will never, you're never actually going to be done. So like even if you're on a different path, like that's okay because you're still on the journey. Like just yeah, giving grace to yourself, I think is the best way to go about
Yeah.
that.
I mean, how have you, navigated stressful situations? And do you have an example of anything stressful that's happened in your life and how you've done it, just so our listeners can maybe use some of the same techniques you did?
Sure. So this will probably be the first time I've talked about this publicly. A few friends and family know. But in was it 2024, so early last year, we for lack of a better word, we had um, my son got a cancer diagnosis. After a whirlwind of a weekend, we noticed, some things going on in his vision, and we were doing the normal mom things where you just take him to the pediatrician, and then the pediatrician's like, "Well, I'll go to the specialist," and then the specialist is like, go to the specialist, and your moments of panic, and yeah, within 3 days, we found out that my son had a tumor in his eye, and uh, for any parent who's ever, been out there, anybody that has you of a loved one that is given a cancer diagnosis, it can be terrifying, right? Because you immediately go to scariest possible, which is, how bad is this? Am I going to lose this person? Um, and your reality shifts like that. Like I remember the moment that the specialist told us, this I'm 99% sure this is what this is. The form of treatment is usually enucleation, which is taking out the eye. And I remember I just reality shifted. It was this whole new pathway that opened up of possibilities for my son and for my family. And it was funny because I the first tears that I cried were not until he was in the care of a doctor and he was getting treatment. But that day, obviously having to start to triage and figure out how are we going to handle this? How are we going to deal with this? I shifted into caregiver mode and just put everything that I possibly could into caregiver mode. Because we were at the hospital with my son and my daughter, and we needed to get home, and they were hungry for lunch. So get like my next step was making mac and cheese. Um,
Yeah.
my next step was like consoling my wife, who had a different reaction. She was able to let everything go. I wasn't trying not to cry.
Mhm.
But it was just what happened in that moment, and where did I need to be? Who needed me? And I could lean into that and be what my family needed me to be. Um, and from there we took it day by day, day by
Mhm.
freaking day. Slow and steady. I'll preface it, he's fine. He's okay now. It's still gonna be a long journey, but we got the care we needed. He is a absolute champ. We found the best doctors in the world that we're forever grateful for. It requires a lot of navigating on our end. We traveled to the East Coast. At that time, we were traveling. We managed to get flights and get an appointment within 2 days. We managed to, on our flight over to the East Coast, find a hotel while we were in the middle of the air flying with him. We didn't know where we were going to stay. We just knew we needed to get there. And I remember the hotel we got to had a gym, and I remember walking down to that gym, and I didn't have a plan in place. I did have a plan, but it didn't have any barbells or whatever. So I was like, okay, I have dumbbells. I can do these movements. And I took that time to myself. I still didn't cry, but I was like, I need to be the strongest version of myself for him, for
Mhm.
me, for my family. And this is how I know how to do that. And the strongest version is probably, more what was happening up here in between my ears. But how I lean into that is, how can I take care of my body?
Mhm.
And I did a workout, and I remember texting one of my friends and just being like, hey, this is going on. I want you to know so that I have somebody that I can kind of lean into. I know you get it. I know you've been through hard times. Like, and this is what I'm doing, and just help support me in that. And she
Mhm.
did, which is great. But so yeah, I mean, honestly, so the past year to almost 2 years now has our lives have flipped upside down. And if anything, I've leaned even more into my habits. It makes food choices very, very easy to make, very simple when I need to be at my best for him. And do I have pizza with him every time we have to go get a treatment or go to a doctor's appointment? Yes. I do not deprive myself of pizza and ice cream and all that fun stuff when that's like, he's being brave, and he gets to have his treats too. And I'm going to show up for him in that way. Um, but it really truly, you know, it puts things into perspective. It allows me to just give me one more reason to be the best version of myself. And again, I think anybody that's been in a caregiver situation kind of would I hope they would do the same. Sometimes it's not that easy. And I know that there have been other people I've met along the way that it's not to fault you if you go a different direction and you need to cry your eyes out for a week and you need to eat pizza for a week or whatever it is. I mean, there's compassion for all of it, in any way possible. But yeah, I feel like I rambled there for a little bit.
Yeah, no, thank you for sharing
Real
all of
life.
that, and of course, we're happy to hear that, things are looking good for your son, and, what I heard is that when you got the news, first of all, I'm grateful that it was a quick diagnosis, like 3 days is pretty quick, and that's fantastic, but you were just in the moment, right? It was about what was your next decision, and it wasn't about, "Oh, I'm gonna miss my workouts." It was, "How can I be there for my family, and how can I be the strongest version of myself to be there for yourself, your family, and especially your son at that time?" And so, you leaning into fitness, is and I think for people who maybe haven't created that as a habit yet, they may not see the benefit of that. And, hearing Sheena's example hopefully helps people understand that, it is an opportunity. Maybe she probably didn't work out for an hour and a half. It may not have been her best workout, but she showed up. And when she walked out of that hotel gym, she probably felt better and more capable and able to be present for her son and her family. And, I commend you, Sheena,
Yeah.
for, the way you've showed up for him and yourself
Yeah.
during this time. And now he's like, when you go to the gym at home, he and your daughter are going to like the daycare at your gym. I
Mhm.
mean, you've found ways and places to, you know, find solutions so that you can make it a priority. And, like, I don't know, like even traveling to the East Coast, like, how did you manage food? Yes, you had some pizza when you're on the East Coast. Still, I think East Coast pizza is the best pizza. Sorry,
Absolutely.
Chicago.
Absolutely.
Um, but what did you do at home? Like, did you have to reframe any of your thoughts, or did you have to work through any tough decisions about food or your fitness?
Mhm.
Did your fitness change at all? And
No,
what advice
it's,
would you give other people?
yeah, I guess, and two, I wanna clarify too, like, I think, for people that maybe don't know us, like, me going to the gym or, like, having a fitness plan, it wasn't about, the um, the surface level words of, like, exercising or, like, being the best version of myself. It's not about, like, having more muscle or, like, the way I look. It wasn't ever an aesthetic thing, right? It was literally about, like, this is something that I need to do to feel my best and to prioritize my health so that I can be the best version for them, right? I hope that's clear, and I just wanna, because I think sometimes people can, like, it wasn't about burning calories, or it wasn't about, making
Yes,
room for pizza or anything like that. It literally is something that, I feel better about, like, it was investing in myself, I think. It was just a small way that I could invest in my body and my brain to be able to show up as the best version of myself for them. So, to answer your question along those same lines, it is, food becomes very important, right? Like, it was how we're eating at hotels, we're eating at hospitals. I still tracked. I tracked often. Like, and if I couldn't track it perfectly, I did what I could so that I could keep a manage. Because for me, like, if things get out of control, I will overeat. And I didn't wanna be in a position where overeating made me feel gross or made me feel like that sends me down a tailspin of the wrong direction of the best version of myself. I didn't restrict calories, I didn't go over, but I logged what I could. We tried to make the best choice possible in the hotel. I always packed my own snacks for airplanes, right? Like, I remember you always traveling with your cucumber and your carrots, and, I mean, I would travel with protein bars and fruit and stuff like that. Like, it really, I wanted to keep as much control over my environment as I could, knowing that everything else going on with him was out of my control, right? At this point, we had MRI results waiting, we had genetic tests waiting, we weren't sure how he was going to respond to chemotherapy treatments. There's so many unknowns. And so whatever I could get a handle on and whatever I could keep control of, I did, because that made me feel better. And again, it wasn't in a way that was like restrictive or obsessive. It was just, this is what I can control, and I'm going to do that so that I can show up as the best version of myself. Um,
real life, right?
Real
Which
life.
is what we're dealing with now because I'm hearing a little bit of echo. I don't know if you can hear that or if it's just on my end, but that's
Maybe.
okay. It's fine now.
Hang with us. We're learning. We're learning.
Yeah, we're learning. But Sheena, I think, one of the things that you mentioned is, and I'm sure everybody's heard this phrase before, like control what you can control. And it's kind of trite and we hear it a lot. And I think there's still value in the lessons from that. And what you're saying is that you being able to navigate hotels and hospitals and continuing to track is what gave you control over feeling your best and doing your best at a time where so much was out of your control. And I'm really glad that you brought up that it wasn't about aesthetics. And it doesn't mean that we don't help our clients. Many of them want to look better. They want to lean out. They want to improve their body composition. However, it's never at the expense of one's mental health, emotional health, and it's alongside feeling more confident, more empowered, more in control, giving yourself permission to make those choices. And if that piece of the puzzle isn't there, your aesthetic outcomes are going to be short-lived in most cases, right? Because you don't have that feeling of control, empowerment, and that you know how to solve problems on your own. Like you were able to find a hotel on the flight, right? I'm sure that felt good. Like, hey, we figured it out. And that helps you make the next decision.
Hmm.
And you're proving to yourself with every decision, every obstacle you overcame that you can keep going. And it's just the next move, the next decision, the next day, like one day at a time, one decision at a time. And I think a lot of times we go so far into the future because many people have weight loss goals or they want their cholesterol to be down by the next time they see their doctor for lab results. And we tie outcomes to a date so frequently. And I feel that it's more beneficial to focus on the now and know that that will take care of itself. If you're taking care of things in the moment and the next decision you have to make about taking care of yourself, your family, your friends, then everything will fall into place. And that is a learning process and it takes practice. And like you said, the journey is never over. So that could be a really depressing thought or it could be a really empowering thought. So we want to help our clients turn that into an empowering thought that, hey, you get to keep practicing, you get to keep trying, you get to keep iterating and seeing what works for you. Our seasons of life change, everything changes. So, how can you pivot when something does change to make sure you are continuing to move forward, whether it's on the same track or you have to jump the track or the route and do something else, and that is possible. So, do you have maybe a client that you can think of who you had to help them through a situation where, they found a way to like keep going when maybe they felt like they couldn't? And I don't mean to put you on the spot, but if you
No.
can't think of one, that's okay.
I mean, so if this is not to say that real life is always doom and gloom, but like my best friend, she recently had her husband has a health issue, and she went through the same. Like she was scared for her family, she was scared for and
Mhm.
for many reasons, right? And she's going to be on the same track of like, okay, I have to. How do I show up as the best version of myself, right? And so the only like this as a, obviously going through what I went through with my son, I felt for her and I was like, here's how I can help. Like, I
Mhm.
want to give you this, I want to give you this gift that I feel like it helped me through my thing. And I was like, let me take care of your workouts for the next however long you need. I'm going to give you, 2 to 3 strength training workouts. We're not really going to worry about cardio right now. You're under a lot of stress. Like, I want you, and here, I like, this is your plan. You don't have to think about it. You just have to show up and just do
Oh,
these. And, I mean, that was, gosh, I don't know how long ago it was, but it's been, and I I think she hasn't missed a workout once. And it was something that she felt like really grounded her too. And it's something magical about being able, giving someone permission and the ability to show up for themselves, take a selfish moment every day I don't even know if it's I mean, sure, it's selfish, but like you're being selfish for somebody else. So I don't think that really counts as selfish. But
Right.
and it gives
Self-care.
you
Yeah.
exactly, yeah. It's like it gives you that pocket of time when you can focus on you and it's okay. And then you go and it's a way to again be in your own body. And then because when you're outside of that, like you're jumping back into to stuff that you don't have any control over, and that's terrifying. So um yeah, and she's done amazing, and it's yeah, it's
Oh,
something that we're working on behind the scenes, right? I want to be able to offer like a compassionate care program for people that are going through stuff like I went through or like my best friend went through where, like when life seems like it's just overwhelming you and you're like nothing is your own, like I want people to have something that they can lean into that's theirs and I want it to be accessible and so that's coming, but that's for maybe
yeah.
another.
I mean, but I think you do that now, Sheena. I think, you already do that. You provide compassionate care to all of your clients. And
Yes.
that's the goal, right? Is that things do change. And if you have a coach or somebody or a doctor who is not, listening to you and aware of your needs changing, whether it's you lost a job or somebody you care about is sick or somebody passed away or, you have financial difficulties, I don't care what it is, it's we want you to find ways to win. So it like Sheena said initially, it could be just changing expectations. It doesn't mean you can't still make progress. It's what's an appropriate expectation for the season of life and what your circumstances are today. And down the road, it will change and you'll be able to do more. But for today, let's think about how we can still challenge you so that you can feel better and continue to feel grounded so that you can show up for yourself, which isn't selfish, right?
No,
Yeah.
that's a very succinct way of putting it. I feel like you're giving me a good coaching session right now because my brain is going back to all the stuff that I don't know that I've fully processed yet. And so I'm like, I feel like I'm in a client role right now and you're like helping coach me through it because I'm like, yeah, that's true. Yeah. Isn't it funny how our brains let us go different areas?
Yeah. So I think, thanks for sharing everything about your son. I think it's important for people to know that we still have things we need to navigate. And that's what allows us to have empathy for our clients and help them find ways to show up. And, this holiday season, whatever it is, maybe it's something really simple that you can do, like maybe it's just taking a walk after a holiday meal with a family member or by yourself and you just take 10 minutes for yourself and maybe normally you would stay to clean up the dishes and you could say to your family, I'm going to go on a 10-minute walk first and then I'll come back and help out. And I think it's just giving yourself the opportunity, giving yourself permission, like you said, Sheena, to try something new, and to know that when you do make a decision to do something for yourself, it's not selfish because you're doing it to enhance your relationships with yourself and others. And you're going to show up in all aspects of life as a better person. So, um, that's my parting thoughts
Beautiful.
for the
Beautiful.
real life, real bodies, like
Mhm.
just give yourself permission to do something that maybe you didn't do the last holiday season.
Yeah. Love it. Love it. Think we're good.
Sounds Yeah,
Yeah.
let's leave it there.
All
Happy
right.
holidays,
Happy
everybody,
holidays, everyone. Thanks, G.
and we're excited for 2026.
Yeah.